The bell above the diner door jingled softly as the little girl burst inside, her sneakers skidding on the worn tile. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7, her hair tangled, cheeks streaked with tears and dirt. For a split second, the low rumble of biker laughter and clinking coffee cups drowned her out. Then she cried, loud and raw, the kind of cry that claws at your chest before your brain can catch up. "They're beating my mama." Every sound in the diner died. Forks froze halfway to mouths. A waitress stopped mid-step, her notepad slipping from her fingers. The jukebox in the corner crackled and went silent, as if even it knew better than to keep playing. The girl stood there shaking, her small hands balled into fists, eyes darting wildly until they landed on the group of bikers sitting near the window. They were hard to miss. Leather vests, heavy boots, tattoos crawling up arms and necks like stories written in ink. Some had beards streaked with gray, others scars that spoke of roads and fights long past. The patches on their backs marked them as a club that passed through town now and then, the kind people whispered about but rarely understood. The girl ran straight to them. She grabbed the pant leg of the nearest biker, clinging like he was the last solid thing in a world that had started to spin. Her voice broke as she spoke again, words tumbling over each other. "Please, they're hurting her. She told me to run. Please don't let them kill her." The biker she'd grabbed was huge, built like a brick wall with arms thick as fence posts. His name patch read, Hawk. He looked down at her, his jaw tightening. The smile he'd worn a moment ago vanished, replaced by something cold and focused. Around the table, chairs scraped back as the others stood. "Easy, sweetheart," Hawk said quietly, crouching so he was eye level with her. His voice was rough but steady. "Where's your mama?" The girl pointed toward the door, toward the stretch of road and the run-down apartment complex just beyond the diner's parking lot. "The blue building," she sobbed. "Upstairs. They're drunk. They came back again." Again. That single word hung in the air, heavier than anything else she'd said. Hawk stood slowly. He looked at the others, Bear, with his braided beard and calm eyes. Diesel, younger, jaw clenched so tight it looked like it might crack. Old Mike, who'd seen enough life to know when something crossed a line you didn't step back from. No one said a word. They didn't need to. "Lock the door," Bear said to the waitress, gently but firmly. "Call the police. Tell them there's domestic violence in progress." The waitress nodded, hands shaking as she moved. Hawk shrugged out of his vest and draped it around the girl's shoulders. It swallowed her whole, the leather heavy and warm, smelling faintly of oil and road dust. "You stay right here with Miss Jenny," he said, nodding toward the waitress. "You did the bravest thing anyone could do. But my mama, we're gonna take care of that," Diesel said, kneeling beside her. His voice cracked despite his effort to keep it steady. "I promise." They walked out together, boots thudding against the pavement in unison. The afternoon sun felt too bright for what they were heading into. As they crossed the parking lot, Hawk could already hear it, the shouting, the ugly edge of violence carried on the air. A woman's scream cut through it, sharp and terrified. "Blue building, 2nd floor." The stairwell smelled of piss and old paint. A door at the end of the hall was half open. Inside, chaos, furniture overturned, a lamp shattered on the floor. 3 men stood in the room, bottles in their hands, faces twisted with rage and drink. One of them had a woman by the hair, yanking her upright as she cried out. "Please," she begged. "My daughter." Hawk didn't remember crossing the threshold. 1 second he was in the hallway, the next he was in the room. His voice thundered before his fists did. "Let her go." The men turned, surprise flashing across their faces, then something uglier, contempt, bravado, the false courage of men who thought they were still the biggest threat in the room. "Oh look," one sneered, shoving the woman aside so she crumpled against the wall. "The biker boys want to play hero." Bear stepped forward, his eyes locked on the woman now curled on the floor, arms wrapped around herself. "You've got about 3 seconds to walk away," he said calmly. "Use them wisely." They laughed. That was their mistake. The first punch came fast and decisive. Hawk dropped the nearest man before he could even lift his bottle. Diesel moved like lightning, disarming another and slamming him into the wall hard enough to knock the wind clean out of him. Old Mike grabbed the third, twisting his arm behind his back until the bottle clattered to the floor. It was over in seconds, but the echoes of it lingered. Heavy breathing. A whimper from one of the men now sprawled on the ground. The woman's sobs, broken and exhausted. Hawk knelt beside her, keeping his distance. "Ma'am," he said gently. "You're safe now. Your little girl's safe too." Her eyes flew open. "She ran," she whispered, panic flaring again. "I told her to run." "She did," Bear said from behind him. "And she found us." Tears spilled freely now, but they were different. Relief mixed with shock, the body finally letting go once the danger passed. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. When the police arrived, they found 3 battered men, a shaken but alive woman, and a group of bikers standing quietly to the side, hands visible, expressions unreadable. Hawk gave his statement plainly, leaving nothing out. The officers listened, nodding, their faces hard as they looked at the wrecked apartment and the bruises already blooming on the woman's arms. Downstairs, the little girl sat wrapped in Hawk's vest, clutching a mug of hot chocolate the waitress had made for her. When she saw her mother walk in, supported by a paramedic, she leapt from the chair and ran, sobbing her name. They held each other tightly, like letting go might shatter what little peace they had left. Hawk watched from the doorway, his chest tight. The girl looked up at him, eyes red but shining. She slipped free from her mother's arms and ran over, pressing the heavy vest back into his hands. "Thank you," she said simply. Hawk knelt again, swallowing hard. "Anytime, kiddo." As the bikers filed out, engines rumbling to life, the diner returned to its uneasy normal. But something had shifted. People watched them go with different eyes now. Not fear, not suspicion, but a quiet understanding. Because sometimes, the scariest looking people are the ones who show up when you need help the most. The engines faded into the distance, but the weight of what had happened didn't leave with them. It lingered in the diner, in the blue apartment building, in the way the little girl clutched her mother's hand as if the world might snatch her away again if she loosened her grip even for a second. At the hospital, fluorescent lights hummed overhead while nurses moved with practiced calm. The woman, her name was Lena, sat on the edge of a narrow bed as a doctor gently examined the bruises on her arms and ribs. None were life-threatening, but every mark told a story she had been too afraid to speak out loud for years. She kept glancing at the doorway, where her daughter, Mia, sat swinging her legs beside a police officer who was offering her a sticker like it was the most important mission in the world. "They've been coming back," Lena finally admitted, voice low. "My ex and his friends. He knows where I live. Knows I don't have anywhere else to go." The officer nodded, writing everything down. "Tonight's different," he said. "They're not walking away this time. And we're going to make sure they can't come near you again." Lena wanted to believe him. She really did, but belief was hard when fear had been her shadow for so long. An hour later, the door opened quietly. Hawk stood there, helmet tucked under his arm, the rest of the club waiting in the hallway. For a moment Lena stiffened, old instincts flaring, but then she saw Mia's face light up like the sun had just walked in. "Mr. Hawk," Mia cried, hopping off the chair and running to him. Hawk froze for half a heartbeat, then knelt and opened his arms. She collided with him, hugging his neck like they were old friends. He laughed softly, eyes stinging. "Hey, kid," he said. "You okay?" She nodded fiercely. "Mama's okay too. The doctor said she's strong." Hawk looked up at Lena, suddenly unsure. "Hope it's all right we came by," he said. "Just wanted to check on you both." Lena swallowed, then stood, ignoring the ache in her ribs. She walked over and, without thinking too much about it, wrapped her arms around him. It was awkward, brief, but real. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to do any of this." Hawk shook his head. "Yeah," he said quietly. "We did." Over the next few days, things moved fast. Faster than Lena was used to. Charges were filed. A restraining order was granted. A social worker helped Lena apply for emergency housing in a different part of town. The diner waitress, Jenny, showed up one afternoon with a bag of clothes for Mia and a list of phone numbers scribbled on a napkin. "You're not alone," Jenny told her, squeezing her hand. Neither were the bikers as far away as Lena thought. On moving day, a low rumble filled the street outside her apartment. One bike, then another, then a dozen. Neighbors peeked through curtains as Hawk and the others dismounted, moving with purpose. They didn't say much. Just carried boxes, wrapped furniture, loaded a borrowed truck with careful efficiency. Mia sat on the curb beside Diesel, wearing a tiny biker bandana he'd tied around her head. "Do you fight bad guys all the time?" she asked, wide-eyed. Diesel chuckled. "Nah, mostly we ride, fix bikes, eat too much road food. But you fight when you have to," she said solemnly. "Yeah," he admitted, "when we have to." The new place was small but clean. Sunlight poured through the windows, and there were no cracked stairs, no flickering hallway lights. As the last box was carried in, Lena felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Hope. Before they left, Hawk handed Lena a piece of paper. "A phone number. If they ever come near you again," he said, "call the cops first. Then call us." She nodded, eyes burning. "I don't know how to repay you." Hawk smiled. "Just a little. You already did. You protected your kid. That's everything." Weeks passed. Life didn't magically become perfect, but it became quieter. Safer. Mia started sleeping through the night. Lena found work at a small bakery nearby, the smell of bread and sugar slowly replacing the scent of fear she'd carried for years. One Saturday afternoon, a familiar sound echoed down the street. Engines. Lena stepped outside, heart skipping, then she laughed when she saw them. The bikers pulled up, parking neatly along the curb like they'd rehearsed it. "We were in town," Bear said, holding up a box. "Thought we'd check in." Inside was a small pink bicycle, its paint shining. Mia screamed with joy. That evening, they sat on the steps eating pizza, watching Mia wobble and laugh as she learned to ride. At one point, she pedaled over to Hawk and stopped, serious as ever. "When I grow up," she said, "I'm gonna be brave like you." Hawk crouched, meeting her gaze. "You already are." As the sun dipped low and the bikes roared back to life, Lena stood beside the road, holding Mia close. She watched the leather-clad figures disappear into the distance, their silhouettes melting into the gold of the evening. They hadn't just stopped a beating that night. They'd changed the course of two lives. And for the first time in a very long time, Lena felt certain of one thing. No matter how dark things got, kindness could still come roaring in when you least expected it.